I'm gonna hang up. Text Michelle with any issues. Okay.
Bootstrap account? No?
Okay, we are live. Okay. All right. I'm gonna let people go in. But we'll just get started. I assume that everyone can hear us, so we're just gonna get started and we'll get a heads up. People can't hear us, so I'm gonna allow Kate to introduce herself. We're here at the Craven Local Food Market in Irwin, North Carolina. This is where our commercial kitchen is at for what we do here. My name is Brandon Youse of the Urban Farm Academy and Bootstrap Farmer. We work together at the Craven Local Food Market. I guess I own the business model, she runs the business model, and from there, I'm gonna let you take it.
My name is Kate Nolan, and my partner Joe and I have a farm about 3 or 4 miles up the road from here where we grow vegetables and then we bring them over here and turn them into food for people. We met Brandon about 3 years ago.
3 years.
And he brought the idea of this sort of business structure to us, and we had just finished building our house and we're ready to start getting more into farming, and we've been evolving the business since then and have really kind of hit, I think, a good stride over the last 6 months here. And yeah.
Why don't you tell her how we started out? So this kitchen was a cafe at one point filled with tables, and it was a little experiment of the whole farm fusion concept.
Yeah, we had online ordering, and then because the establishment is on a main thoroughfare and was a dine-in establishment before we took it over, we attempted to have counter service, and quickly we realized that it was taking up too much time and capital to try to maintain that model. And with the size and scale we were working with and the mission that we were really focused on, the online ordering and making food to order was where we put our attention for about a year. And then we started to be able to integrate a farmer's market table, which was a good in-between for us. So we could take enough inventory there where we were still keeping our waste really, really low, but building or creating access for clients that were interested in the ordering online and delivery model.
I guess what it came down to was, and especially for people who are just farming and not doing value-added things, it really became a time management issue. If our goal was to grow things, cook things, and turn that into value-added products, the sales channel or how we did that was really important because that takes up a lot of time too. So for us, the whole subscription and delivery method was like once a week. We knew when we were doing it, we could do it all at once. And I mean, the cafe, that was a big pain in the ass, and I think we all hated it. But I think what we've done is we've settled on the farmer's market and then the once a week delivery. And how's that been going for you? Like one question, and we're gonna have questions at the end of this. So if you have any, you can start putting them in now. What's up, Evan? What's up, Isaac? How you doing, Isaac? But why don't you talk about the time management and how this is actually possible for you? Because one of the biggest concerns right out the gate is I can't do all that. I am so busy with my business. I can't imagine doing value added, working with the commercial kitchen. Like, where do I even start with the regulations in the health department? Like, what's your thoughts on all of that?
I had never worked in a kitchen before, so there was a learning curve figuring out how you needed to maintain a kitchen. We're really fortunate in that our kitchen is very close to our farm. It's also out of town, so the rent is really reasonable for the kind of facility that we have. So, I mean, in some places, like that overhead is going to be prohibitive, and you might need to figure out like a cooperative kitchen or something like that, but it works for us. And then figuring out how you can have a menu or products that are limited enough that you can accomplish all of your cooking in one day. In our case, we cook Sundays. And the biggest hurdle, and the thing I think that we still kind of struggle with and maybe is off-putting for some clients, is that we put out our menu on Monday. Folks have until Thursday to place their order, and then they're not going to get their delivery until the following Monday. So they order by Thursday, it's delivered Monday. And that gap can be challenging for people, but it's really necessary for us to have the time then to not just harvest, but also source from the other farmers that we're sourcing from and get the dry goods that we need to get, cook all day Sunday, finish up Monday morning, and then do deliveries.
So let me pause you there. We got to make sure we can relate this whole schedule to everyone else's. So that actually fits in really well with the food distribution model. So even if you're not going to be making meals like we do, or we create a new menu every week, let's say you basically have the same menu or a selection of items every week. You still kind of need that buffer time where orders are closed, now we gather the orders, and now we can go deliver them. So like you were saying, we do the Thursday midnight, and then Sunday we're cooking, Monday it goes out. That's a big window, or I mean, it's plenty for us, and it works for us, and people are on that schedule. So I guess that's just one thing to keep in mind. If you're going to do a once a week delivery, give yourself that gap to be able to figure everything out. And also to kind of sync up inventory, whether that inventory is meals or that inventory is other locally produced things where everyone's sort of giving each other the inventory numbers for the week.
And out of curiosity, quick question. Your take on cooking for many people versus cooking for a family, like how do you scale the cooking process?
Repeat the question.
So the question is scale, and that was being a home cook, and I've been cooking since I was really young and just enjoyed cooking for people, but had never done it professionally. So yes, scaling up became the biggest thing that I had to learn being in a kitchen here. So going from cooking 4 portions of something to cooking 30 portions of something. Also wrapped into that is I'm packaging food that's going to be delivered. It's going to be boxed, and it's a lot of vegetable heavy things, and I want those vegetables to look good. I don't want them to go in a box and get brown. So we do a lot of blanching of greens. And I mean, there's lots of little things, but I didn't really even research that sort of stuff. It was kind of trial by fire, and we were starting a business from scratch. So our first month or two, we had maybe only 10 clients. And so you feel, okay, how do I handle this with 10 clients? And then it's 15, and then it's 20, and then it's 30. And so you're able to grow with the business, at least in our environment where we kind of have to work for our clientele because this is not a service that people are really familiar with, and the population, I think New Bern is 30,000. So if it was in the city and there were a lot of people that kind of were already eager for this sort of thing or knew about it, you might have to be a little bit more prepared than we were.
Yep. I would say 30,000 is a good minimum number. We definitely have an audience that can support us. And I think, but it proves out that if we could do it here, it could really be almost anywhere because it is pretty rural out here. And there's a lot to our disadvantage, I would say. It's the population in general. But yes. So, we've made it work, and we're basically like a little over a full year into just not worrying about the cafe and just optimizing what we've been doing. And I just feel like year after year, we could really build on that. And so I'm gonna address this question by Isaac. And the question is, we have been 97% restaurant and food service. With what has happened now, how do you pivot away from restaurants to community? And the one tip that I've been passing around the most for this is to basically use other people's audiences, because right now, you've been building relationships with chefs this whole time. So those chefs are sort of out of a job, but those chefs, they have email lists. Maybe they can send out an email on your behalf to their customers because maybe you're going to make future trades, or maybe you're going to give him a job as a delivery driver for right now to help him. So there might be a trade in there somewhere where you can use an email list of another business, an Instagram account of another business. That's what I would look to be doing because, everyone's online right now. Everyone's scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and checking their emails. People are really engaged because, they're trapped in their house. So I just think it's a good time that if you can leverage someone else's audience, another business, especially middle and high income businesses like a pool cleaning service. Those people that have pools, they probably are looking for what you offer, because Isaac, you grow some of the best, most nutritious food on the planet. You basically grow the Bentley of produce, and you need to realize that, and you should carry that attitude forward to your customers and saying, look, we all need to be healthy right now. So I grow some of the healthiest food out there. Here, I have a delivery service. So, you can hack the audience by using other people's audiences, and hopefully you built up some good business relationships outside of industry over time. So that's the one big tip I've been giving. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would suggest even if you haven't been selling at farmers market, I would suggest reaching out to local farmers markets. A lot of them have had to shut down or are operating at a much smaller scale, and they would probably happily boost any, either send something out to their listserv or just help to redirect folks who are looking, usually go there for produce, to farms that are trying to get the produce out to people, because so many people are just people are switching how they're delivering, and the consumers are trying to figure out how they're going to continue to consume. And they're eager. Like, I just shared an email with Brandon when I got here from one of our clients that had lots of suggestions about how we could create an online food farm to customer co-op.
Yeah.
And so I think the interest is there, but in terms of reaching the customers, especially if your farmer's market does have an active social media, I'm sure that you could use that to draw people over to your website or your social media or whatever.
I think the demand for local produce is there, but they just don't have that relationship with you right now. So how can you develop a relationship quickly? And I would leverage the relationships that other businesses have built to sort of do that. And that's kind of what the farmers market is in a way, but we don't even know how long those are going to be staying open at this point. So again, just the direct to consumer going right to their house or a pickup point, just seems kind of like the best thing right now. And, that starts with an online storefront. If you don't have an online storefront, how are you supposed to take orders in this environment? It's going to be very manual, not scalable, and it's going to add chaos to what you have going on already. And, I know online stores, they cost money. They cost a monthly fee. If you don't have a website, I know all that costs money, and a lot of people don't have it right now. So that's really some of the hard decisions that are being faced. But at the end of the day, if, I wrote a blog post and I put it out earlier today, and it's talking about, the opportunity for small farmers, because, over the last couple of years, over, 10, 20 years, convenience has driven the way our economy is formed in the stores that have grown. So, for example, Walmart, they're everywhere. They're convenient. When you walk into a Walmart anywhere in the country, you kind of know what to expect and where to get things. And they provide really low prices, which was the value. So just that convenience and value for that time is what the mass markets appreciated. But right now, I think the definition of convenience has changed. Right now, the definition of convenience is, can I order online and can it get to my house safely? And
also, can I trust the source? Like, people are concerned about the vegetables that have been sitting in the grocery store that who knows who's coughing on them, or how many people have handled them in between them getting them. Like, so just having a much smaller chain is going to be reassuring to people. And it also has this underlying sense of community, which for lots of reasons people want, even if they can't go and hang out with people. If they're getting vegetables delivered to their door, that is going to feel like a social connection that they're missing right now.
And that's kind of the thing. It's like all these different factors, like the local farmer is the perfect avatar to fill those needs. And so, yes, we do meal plans, okay, whatever. Like, what we're talking about is the mindset shift, like the frameworks of what we're doing and how you can apply that to what's going on right now. Because, here's the thing. Online storefronts, deliveries, convenience models, that was a trend. And it's a trend that just got sped up super fast. So this is not like something that's going to disappear once this all dissipates. I think what's happening right now is people's habits just got interrupted. And habits are like the hardest thing to break. So, over time, it's delivery models starting to take over, Grubhub. Like, it didn't happen overnight. It's been like happening. But now that everyone's forced into this sort of lifestyle, everyone's habits are like up for grabs in a way that we've just never seen in our lifetime. And I don't know, like, other than like World War II, how many people's lives in America have been shaken like this to such a wide degree. So the word opportunity in this whole thing, it seems very squirrely or just whatever, but people's habits are really hard to break. And when we talk about local food, we all talk about how we like it and enjoy it, but people don't actually follow through on that. Well, here's the opportunity where this is actually really valued for all the reasons that you mentioned. They know where it's coming from, the community aspect, all of those things. So let people know that that's what you can offer. They're not going to assume, they're not thinking deeply for you. You have to let them know that that's what you're providing, because that's what they're looking for right now. But it's still your job to tell them. Like right now, I feel like the Farm Fusion model, like everything that we've been doing, like it's built for this time. But we can't just sit back and just assume that everyone's going to come to us and find us. Like, no, this is our time to be even louder and to get out there and talk about this and do this YouTube Live, because, we're not going to be sit back and proven right. We have to be out there and share what we have to say. So in the same way that you've got to get out there and tell people what you can offer, because I feel like that's what they want right now. And that's sort of the definition of convenience changing, that really just gives farmers the opportunity to win back that relationship, which has been lost over time, because the farmers markets are not convenient for most people. They have kids, they're going to basketball practice, they're taking their kids to gymnastics in the morning. They don't have time for the farmers market on a regular basis. And I just think that's sort of been the thing that's hurt farming or small farming over the long term, was the failure to recognize that, or the failure to reach mass markets. And that's why we do the popsicles and the kombucha and the fudge and the energy bites, because we're also trying to reach mass markets on top of our online storefronts and delivery. Like, convenience is everything. And when I started this model, it was not assuming that people were going to come to me to support my local farmer, because there's a reason why local farming isn't massive, because most people don't care enough to actually make the purchase. So that just expecting people to come support your local farmer is actually just idealism. But right now, they're actually looking for us. So we can leverage what used to be idealistic thinking, but now if we put it out there to them, they might be much more willing to do business with us. And we just have to, be there in the moment for them and be able to service them like we've been waiting for this whole time. So, any thoughts? Expand on that? No?
No.
Cool.
You ready for questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So first question, so how to keep the menu fresh with new items? Like, how do you decide the weekly menu?
How do you decide on the weekly menu?
The question is, how do I decide on the weekly menu? Basically, the starting point for our menu is, what do we know next week we're going to have ready to harvest in our garden in a quantity that is going to work for the approximate number of clients that we're going to have. And we are small, and so that's a pretty significant limitation. I started a Google spreadsheet when we first began, and I have every week's menu in there, which has started to become a resource, like coming into year 2 and being able to look back seasonally to see what we've done. We're still getting produce from other local farmers and organic produce from the grocery store even to supplement our meals. So, but if I have that starting limitation of how can we utilize as much as possible from our garden, then that's a good starting point. And because we're trying to make so many different things, we grow a ton of different stuff at our farm. I think it's different than probably a lot of like the market gardeners. We grew a lot of pumpkins, a lot of squash, things that can really fill out a menu, and we can store. We still have winter squash from the fall that we're using in our meals now. So planning what you're growing, knowing that you're going to be trying to create a variety of meals, but also have stuff to fill things out, I think is pretty important. And then we have the structure of having inspiration from different regions around the world. So that kind of helps us in organizing the menu. But it takes usually about an hour to 2 hours. And we do it when we get home from the kitchen. We get home from cooking Sunday night, and we just usually sit down and make our menu. And then either that night or Monday morning, I put it up on the website.
Can you talk a little bit, and maybe this is wrong, but it seems you have more freedom than a market gardener. Like, I know you plant a lot of things and you're kind of like, well, let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the business isn't like dependent on those being successful. Like, you can, it's almost like, and this is why I kind of like, it's a way of making permaculture profitable, because what people in permaculture love is just the variety of things and doing what feels right and finding out what grows. So what I really like about what we're able to do is you can just kind of grow whatever you can and experiment and not like be locked into these fixed things months in advance. And
Sure.
that's how that menu kind of evolves week to week, because sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay.
Yeah,
I think
because
that
it
adds,
makes a new menu.
and that adds to the resiliency of the business, because like if you're just growing basil, well, you're susceptible to all the problems that can happen to that market. Like maybe you have a disease that wipes out all of your basil. Maybe someone else starts growing basil, or maybe just people stop liking basil. There's a lot of different factors to that one specific thing, whereas we're kind of like bulletproof because we can really do anything with anything. You know, we can freeze it, we can turn it into something hot, we can sell it just as, like if it's extra, you sell produce just at the farmer's market.
Yeah, I think for a market gardener that's working with restaurants have at least a seasonal menu. And so if you want to have a good relationship with them, you need to be able to provide consistently a product. And that's too much. It's more than what we can do at our scale, especially with the kind of variety that we want to grow. So having that menu shift, it's probably not for everybody, and it does, take a certain amount of creative energy and improvising, but it gives us so much more flexibility with what we grow.
Do you think, I mean, just in general, that makes farming more fun?
Oh yeah.
Right?
I mean, we're doing what we would do for ourselves, just on a larger scale right
But
now.
I just wanted to point out the whole like market gardening approach versus this approach. Like, I just feel like there's so much more freedom to just relax and have fun. And so.
What are the must-grow crops?
The must-grow crops.
Is there a context for that?
Top must-grow crops for creating local food market. What
Okay, for
must
what we're doing, I guess?
Yeah.
We do keep in mind about what the other farmers, the market gardeners are growing. So a lot of the leafy greens, we do grow those, but if we know we can get it from Beaufort County Organics or another local farmer that we work with, sometimes we don't prioritize those, because even if it kind of changes what type of green it is, I know that I'm going to be able to get it from them. Like I said, the winter squash I think is super key. We grew butternut squash, and Tetsu Kabuto is an awesome, great storage squash. It's vine borer resistant. It's awesome in soups. It's awesome for roasting. And I know, we'll grow. We've had them for the last 6 months, and they're still good. So, in a lean month, that definitely becomes a priority. A lot of the others, like carrots, radishes, a lot of the quick stuff that market gardeners do, we grow those. Beans, there's some really awesome high production long beans, Asian asparagus beans are great. They are low prep and can fill out a menu really well. What else? Arugula. We did the tomatoes and the eggplants, and my pesto sold awesome last year. So not just for the subscription, but value added baba ganoush is pretty easy to make. It freezes really well, and if you're growing a ton of eggplant, people loved that. What else do we grow? The Hikari turnips we've been growing, and they're quick. You can roast them, you can do salads, you can use the greens. Probably I'll think of more.
Well, and here's the thing. You can start really simply, just like the baba ganoush. If you could just do that, especially if you have another farmer or a group like Profound Foods, who's a food hub, where you can just focus on a single product and enter someone else's distribution chain and just leverage their delivery streams and their online storefront. So, instead of maybe doing it all yourself, if there's someone like Profound Foods out there who has a locally owned food hub, you can just join what they're doing. And that, again, provides like another opportunity. If one does not exist, if there's no locally owned food hub where people are delivering what's made locally, you can do that. You can be the one to step up and start contacting other farms and say, if I set up this online store, are you in, and what would you have?
Cucumbers. Sorry.
Cucumbers. Okay. Oh, right. For
People
pickles.
bought the shit out of pickles.
Yep.
Cucumbers.
And super easy, and they're really cheap, and we get the price for them. So we put everything in glass jars at this point, and which is tough because they're expensive. So you need to make sure that you can get your price for the things that you're making if you're going to be putting everything in jars. And pickles has awesome margins and awesome volume and awesome sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about jackfruit now as a meat substitute?
I use jackfruit. We get it canned from the local Asian grocer. And those bowls sell well. We do a barbecue jackfruit, and then we do an Indonesian jackfruit curry. And you can do eggplant in that, and bok choy works really well in that. But I find that the tofu dishes that we do are sometimes harder to present to our local clientele. And jackfruit, for whatever reason, is less off-putting to people. So typically those bowls will sell better overall, not just to our vegan clients.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like that a lot. And it's really versatile too. It freezes well also. So if you did like a barbecue jackfruit, you could freeze that and then use it later to add to a burrito bowl or something.
Okay. One thing that I brought up in that blog post was talking about markets and the opportunity that we have of something that we make that it's basically all of our stuff, but that also reaches mass markets. And the example that I'm going to use is the popsicles,
Mm-hmm.
because holy shit, you made awesome popsicles, and they looked wonderful and awesome in the pictures, and kids were walking away with them, which really just validated so many things about what we were doing. And it's one of those things where you can grow one watermelon, make 50 popsicles.
Yeah.
And 10 times the price. And that's kind of the whole point for what we're doing. We're growing a $2 head of lettuce and turning it into a $10 salad.
Mm-hmm.
And what different products can we do that for? So for me, popsicles just checked all of those boxes. Do you have another good example?
Yeah, the popsicles were great. And then when we transitioned into the cooler months, they obviously stopped selling. Also, the cooler or the freezer is a pain in the butt to take to the farmer's market. So I started doing ham pies, which is a savory pastry. And again, my thought process for that was I really like the popsicles because we are using the things that we're growing. They're really simple, very few ingredients. What can I do? And so in the winter, you have the potatoes and the squash and all the things. So I have all winter been doing ham pies. And again, I sell out every week at the farmer's market. And the fillings are almost 100% what we grow. I did a curried pumpkin, the Tetsukabuto pumpkin with chickpea, and that one was with kale. And then I did, we had leek, so I did a leek, mushroom, sweet potato black bean with collards, and can't remember the other one right now, but the very marketable. You don't have to be into weird stuff to like them. So they're great at the farmer's market. They're handheld. So, and we just would take a microwave with us to the farmer's market so we could heat them up for people if they wanted them. But you have to get comfortable working with pastry, but
So we're going down this value-added rabbit hole a little bit, and I just want to reiterate for anyone who thinks that the whole commercial kitchen thing might be overwhelming. I think there's a really good opportunity right now to get easy commercial kitchen space with a restaurant. They don't have people inside of it anymore. Their hours are a little different. I think having them bring in a little extra money through renting out their kitchen space is definitely going to be an option. So you might need to work in the kitchen in weird hours, but if you wanted to turn this thing on and start making locally grown pizzas that have the local sausage, the local bell peppers and all of that, and make that your business, I don't think it's really as hard as you think, especially right now with restaurants really cash strapped. And I think they'd be very willing to open out space. And I also think health departments would be pretty quick to move to help food establishments stay open, remain open, and become open. So as far as that goes, just overall food products, as far as what a farmer can actually make, that's like a mass market item. For us, it was always like the three main categories: pizza, ramen, and tacos. And I think individually, like, who doesn't like those three categories? And I just think that's a good mass market item where if you wanted to focus on one thing and something that you really enjoyed, I think laws for outdoor grills, especially in North Carolina, is pretty lax. So like we bought like a uni pizza oven, UNI, and we were making pizzas outside of the food truck with those, and those did great, especially outside of the bar, which obviously bars aren't open anymore. But just one of those things to consider, maybe delivering pizzas, but like a locally grown pizza would be pretty cool, because again, it's really about the supply chain, keeping that supply chain short, and being able to tell that story, I think would be pretty interesting. And if you're going to do something like that, reach out to the media, reach out to all kinds of people. Like, people want good news stories and people stepping up and taking a leadership position. So that would be another thing. If you're going to do something like this, all the local news outlets about what you're doing. And I think you might find more support now than you would have a couple months ago when, the thing that catches everyone's attention on the news was a little bit different.
Should a new farmer partner up with someone already delivering?
Yeah. I mean, that's a personal choice, right? But I mean, if you have to act quickly, using someone else, like, just the way that I grow my business, I just want the best who's already doing it, or just someone I can trust that's going to learn it really quickly, because there's not a lot of time to just figure things. Or maybe you do have the time. Maybe you just got laid off, but you got a bunch of money sitting in the bank account and you can start to tinker on these things. So I think to answer that question, it just seems like a very personal answer. So, but you can do anything you want, honestly. Like, you could do whatever you think you can. You're just going to have to start laying out the steps to do that.
The more you keep in-house, the more profit you're going to make. That would be my only thing. I mean, we do pretty much everything.
Yep.
And so our costs are very low. Going to make that would be my only thing. I mean, we do pretty much everything.
Yep.
And so our costs are very low. You're going to be losing something by.
And trust is a huge factor. So I would just wonder, like, who are you reaching out to? Like, I wouldn't be making any quick relationships, like from a formal business sense, in that regard, maybe like too quick, because I mean, between us, we, I think, have the ultimate trust. And I also think that's kind of necessary for these things to go well. So I would just be a little concerned about that.
So you had touched on this prior. You said about you putting everything in glass. Are you only using glass, or are you using anything else? What did you start off using for containers?
Our packaging, the question was about our glass jars and packaging. So it was really important to me personally that we prioritize reducing single-use plastic throughout the business. So we began using brown paper boxes, and then we have an option for folks to buy into a glass jar exchange, so ball jars. And that's still how we operate the online ordering and delivery. The default is everything is going to come in a brown paper box, or we have the biodegradable soup containers for the liquid items. There's one or two things parfaits that we do in the plant plastic, which is not ideal, but the aesthetics are important. And then for folks to buy into the jar exchange, it's a one-time $10 charge. And then from that point on, whenever they order, all of their meals are in a jar. When our delivery drivers take food to those folks' houses, those people give us their jars from last week, and we bring them back to the kitchen, and then everything goes through the 3-basin wash, rinse, sanitize. At the farmer's market, everything that we do is in glass, and we do a $1 refund. So we're encouraging our repeat customers to bring those jars back, and I would say we probably get around 50% of them back, which is not bad. And then they get $1 for every jar they bring back. They get $1 off the purchase that they're making at the market that day.
And we price it in a way where we can live with that glass walking away.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, when you get a nice glass jar, I mean, I keep mine, and they're just good to have around the house. I'm sure people use them. It's when you have a really nice ball jar, you're not throwing it away. And I think that's just like a thing people aren't going to do when plastic, they just throw it away. So
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, like we have the subscription model, but anytime you're getting repeat business or giving them a reason to come back, I think the glass is like the perfect hook, because first of all, we're farmers. We start off the supply chain when we start the seed. So it's kind of our responsibility to do that in the right way. So glass is environmentally friendly. Then it has the added benefit of giving that person a reason to return, especially if you're going to give them $1 off their next purchase. So even if the glass is cracked, whatever, it's still good to get them back. I mean, it's like you said, about 50% of the farmers market is repeat customers, and I think that speaks for itself.
I'm a farmer, not a computer engineer. How do you get a menu to order from? How do you do that? How do you give someone those options?
So the question was, how do you, as a farmer, you mean like create an online system?
How do you create an online system for ordering?
We use Shopify, and Brandon was the instigator of all the online things. I'm relatively savvy, like I can figure things out, so it didn't take me that long to acclimate myself to Shopify.
And you could figure, you could run it if you had to.
Oh, totally. Like there's some things I'll ask him just to do because I don't feel like figuring it out. But yeah, I mean, on a weekly basis, once all the inventory is in there, once it's all set up, the only thing I have to go in and change is like copy and paste my menu into the menu page. Like that's all I do. There's an add-on that allows us to do the subscription. And I'm not saying like the system is perfect, and we definitely have a lot of user issues, which is partially just a lot of our clients aren't super computer savvy, and I think our clients skew like older, just not as comfortable figuring things out on the computer. So I do wind up having to field a fair amount of like email concerns, but not as much, these days.
I mean, the subscription model is pretty set it and forget it. There's still quite a bit of back and forth. And just keep in mind, like any barrier you put up is a lot bigger than you think. Like even just an additional click or to have to like jump to a different web page, just consider that like the Great Wall of China, because people just don't get past basically anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this with Bootstrap, I know with Urban Farm Academy, we know like it's just been confirmed everywhere.
Yeah, if we could build our own website, there would be a lot of things that we would change. Just even the nature of because our menu changes every week, that's a separate page on the website, and then they have to go to a different page to actually place the order and refer back, which again is not ideal, but that would require like going in and changing fundamental things on the website every week, which isn't, time efficient for us. So we figure it out.
And when we change the menu, we just have like general categories that they match up to.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Asia Bowl, the Asia Bowl changed. So you just have to look at the weekly menu to know what you want. So that's a little inconvenient. Wish it was kind of like on the same screen. And you're just gonna have to deal with some limitations of the website, which is why like any barrier, make sure like it's impossible, like do everything you can to avoid it, because you're gonna run into some, like we do with the whole menu approach. Good. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to anybody, or did you write a speech?
No.
Okay. Good luck out there, everybody. I hope you got something out of this. Just a reminder, we have the microgreens live Q&A just like this tomorrow on the Acre down in Houston, Texas. Those guys do the Business of Microgreens course. They're awesome. They've been making a whole bunch of pivots because they had a bunch of restaurant clients too, and those guys are probably some of the most creative in the industry. I think right up there with Kate. So for real, hey, go on our Instagram, Craven Local Food Market, and see some of the stuff that they're doing. I mean, I couldn't be more happy with things Kate does. It's like a dream come true to be able to work with her and Joe, making all my fantasies and dreams come true. So no, for real, like, and to be able to to show this and share this with people. I mean, you knew this was a goal from like the very beginning. I always had like you have like the business and you're trying to build it all and do it, but I have like, this was like my intention the whole time. So to be able to share this, it means a lot, and I appreciate you coming. So again, I got off on a tangent there. Microgreens tomorrow, which is Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. And then on Sunday, we're going to be meeting with, or it's going to be Jeff Bednar of Profound Foods, and that's going to be at Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central. And yeah, you want to talk about a whirlwind of activity and changes and pivots. Jeff Bednar, I think, is going to win the gold medal at that. And damn, did he flip the switch on? And they're thriving through this. And that's why we're featuring these people, because we want all of small farming to thrive, and we want our food system to be better because of this. And like we were saying, the ideal avatar for what people are looking for, the small farmer fits that role. And they fit that role if we're willing to step up and acknowledge that and own it and talk to our communities in that way, and just step up and be the leader that they want us to be, whether they know it right now or not. So, that's the challenge I'm going to end this with. I hope you got something out of this. If you have any follow-up questions, shoot us an email to admin@urbanfarmacademy.com, and we're going to do our best to get back to you. So with that, I'm going to hit the end stream button.
Okay.